Hello there. Welcome to another year. Let's examine some of your New Year's resolutions while I brush my hair. So, I'm going to be asking you some simple questions, and I want you to just ponder over them, if not immediately answer them. If there's a question that I ask that you don't quite know the answers to, that's okay. I will brush your face with these lilac flowers until you come up with an answer. And if you decide that you'll just leave that little space empty in your mind, then that's also okay. I will brush your face gently in a way to promote a sense of remaining grounded and at peace, as opposed to feeling this sort of like high cortisol, sort of stress, sort of like unnecessarily anxious feeling, where you feel like you have to rush to a conclusion, rush to solutions, quickly be productive, as opposed to effectively processing something from a very stable and clear-minded, sober-minded place. Work smarter, not harder, essentially. Think smarter, not harder. So, I want you to tell me, first and foremost, how did 2023 go for you? Okay, yeah. Still a living nightmare. Common feeling for the entire populace. I would say that there's probably a humbling of mankind as they start to understand the value of never depending on artifice. Essentially, I think mankind has reached a point where they value that which is real, long-standing, dependable, reliable, structured, and ordered. Now, how do you feel going into 2024? Okay, very interesting. What are your goals academically? Have you thought about taking any classes at like a community college, revisiting your student career, finishing any degrees, getting a new degree? Okay, I'll let you think about that one while I just gently brush your face. It doesn't have to be anything major or substantial. You could just take a class just to sort of exercise the mind. And it doesn't even have to be a class you pay for. You can just ask if you could just sit in a class and observe. It helps to exercise your brain, stave off any mental stagnation, exercise your awareness, exercise your cognition and critical thinking. And it also helps to stave off any sort of brain degeneration. And also, it can open a door of opportunity for you where you feel like life is never over. It always has new beginnings, new dimensions for which you can start life again, start new projects, open up the portal, basically. As long as you're alive, you'll always have a lot of opportunities at your disposal. No matter how young, how busy, no matter what your circumstances in life, there's always a door somewhere hidden around the corners. Now, have you given any mind to any sort of career or job changes? You don't need to necessarily call it a career. Sometimes a career can, and also jobs, can make you feel like it identifies an element of your identity. But unless you take true passion out of your work, true pride in your labor, you can always just brainstorm what your next move is going to be within the next year or two, how you're going to set up little stepping stones, little blocks, building blocks towards a bigger and better path, or perhaps a different path in case your current work is getting kind of boring, monotonous, or annoying. Ponder over it. Here. Just going to put the little lilacs over your face. Like that. And like that. And like that. And a little bit like that. You don't have to do any big change. These are just ideas. Okay. Now, have you given any mind for any philosophical change in life? Not necessarily religious, but philosophical. As in, do you think that you might start to kind of prize a healthier definition of life philosophy instead of being so comfortable with the quote-unquote meaninglessness of life, or instead of being comfortable by accepting that you can't control anything, accepting that somehow, some way, the truth of reality is that which emphasizes the negative, instead sort of directing your attention more towards philosophies that allow you to take more control over yourself and consequently more control over your environment, philosophies that allow you to feel more competent and in control of your life direction, essentially, your perspective, your mind, where it doesn't just wander off, it doesn't just excuse or enable the toxicity of life around you and within you, but rather strives for something a little more ideal. Stoicism is kind of an example of that, but there's plenty of life paths that are structured and that are a little more upbuilding, that I would say. Yeah. Here, give it a little bit more mind. Pay attention to perhaps some of your well-accepted default modes of thinking, and kind of observe how it is that if you vest a lot of weight in that perhaps abysmal, perhaps negative, perhaps cynical and bitter perspective, if you vest a lot of weight in that being the truth, and then find that those who don't share that perspective are somehow living in falsity when they absorb or perhaps vest value in something a little more upbuilding or a little more ideal or a little more positive and healthy, perhaps evaluate how, even if the idea of you having weight to your perspective and them having weight to their perspective, evaluate who is having the better results in life, evaluate whose perspective is actually getting them ahead in life, and wonder what good does having a cynical perspective serve you if your quote-unquote truth is only excusing or allowing or enabling some pains or some unhealthy patterns within yourself to manifest, and that perhaps those pains were never truly the truth, but rather a lie or falsity that you were exposed to that gave you a skewed perspective as to what reality was supposed to look like. And since no one perceives reality in the same vein, perhaps that in itself is the falsity that you're looking at. It's like the shadows on the walls. Someone's looking at the flame, feeling impassioned in life. Meanwhile, someone else looks at the shadow, believing that to be the flat truth, basically. If any of that made sense, great. But if not, I would say allow that train of thought to play out and see where it takes you. see if that's a truth you want to keep, or if you want to examine and adjust to better reflect the ideal that you seek, but feel like is impossible for you to reach. When in reality, if someone else can accomplish that feat, if someone else can have the reality or have the ideal that you want, even if you think it's false or even if you think it's impossible for you to achieve, that perhaps it's actually not quite impossible for you to have, as long as you adjust your perspective to match it, adjust your ideas of life to reach it little by little. Nice. Okay. Now, I want you to ponder over the spiritual dimension. What would you vest your spiritual health in? There's many dimensions to life. There's the spiritual realm, there's the material realm, and I guess the psychological realm, but I think the psychological realm is just a spiritual realm. What do you think would be the most suitable for your spiritual health? Some put their value in concepts like witchcraft, where they believe that they have more power over themselves because if they are in direct control of manipulating the energies around them, then that level of control then makes them feel in control of their environment and surroundings. But that's where you end up coasting into manipulative arenas where you can drive yourself mad thinking that your perspective is the end-all be-all truth of the world, which, when you're so limited as an individual, will never hold water. You don't want that level of responsibility on your shoulders. None of us are competent or capable enough to handle it. We're children in the grand scheme of things. If you add up all of the years of human existence, our lives are nothing more than a drop within a vast ocean. To believe that us as individuals can patchwork a coherent, let alone cohesive worldview, and then rest value as it being the truth or answers to our life, is not only ignorant, but foolish. You could also rest your spiritual health in something a little more traditional and long-standing, like a religion, whether it be something like Buddhism, which technically isn't necessarily a religion because there's no deity. It's more so like a life philosophy. Christianity, of course. Zoroastrianism, which is still around. It's just very low-key. Hinduism, Islam. However, it's always interesting to add up all the pieces. Always reflect, compare, and contrast to see which one has the most positive results to your life. Which one will give you that deep sense of inner peace? Which one will promote a successful, happy, healthy worldview? It'll give you depth in life. It'll help alleviate any feelings of having to have everything in order and instead trusting in a higher power, trusting in a bigger plan, something outside of yourself. That level of humility alleviates the ego and pride so embedded within secular societies, where people pretend to have all the answers to huge questions that only a higher power can answer. finally, do you have any travel plans for this new year? It could be something as small as going somewhere new in your local town, or something as big as visiting another country. Interesting. Very nice. What about, are you planning on going to the gym or doing any sort of like new physical exercise? That could be like joining a local like community sports team or taking a class in ballet or something. Okay, excellent. Very nice. Very good. How about any resolutions for your diet? Trying to cut out any processed foods, trying to have more water intake, be more conscientious of what types of foods you eat, where they be more healthy and substantive, iron rich, magnesium rich, omega-3, B12. Nice. Very nice. What kind of bad habits are you thinking about cutting this year? Bad habits. Perhaps you want to cut down on your coffee intake because that does increase stress and anxiety within your body. That's how it keeps you alert, is by just making you artificially anxious. Or cutting out alcohol. It's not healthy for your bloodstream. It's bad for your circulatory system and also for your liver. Or cutting out any type of substances which could dull your perception, dull your senses. It can dull your sense of reality. It can make you feel out of touch with time, out of touch with what's going on around you, and make you far more incompetent and incapable. Or perhaps cutting out foul language. That'll help your brain become more verbally competent. It'll exercise your vocabulary better. Nice. Okay. Do you have any new little tasks or projects that you want to work on? Something to construct your mind on your personal hobbies? Something like practicing art, like painting, drawing, sketching, sewing, fashion, or something like practicing a new instrument, like the piano, violin, guitar, even your vocals, or learning a new language, perhaps something that you've already been working on, but instead building on that knowledge. Very nice. I would recommend you jot down all of these ideas, and that way, throughout the year, you don't necessarily have to be perfect. It's not a black and white thing where once you fail, you're done. It's something that you build. It's a little practice, so that way by the end of the year, you can reflect on your progress. You don't have to be perfect. It's all about progress, personal progress, building up those skills, little by little. That way they start to become a practice inside your mind. If you try to expect perfection, you'll snap like a twig, and you'll take failure as a piece of your identity, as opposed to a measurement of your progress. Failure is never part of one's identity until you make it so. It's always just a little hiccup in one's progress, a little lesson to learn from and then overcome. Finally, do you have any sort of like cultural milestones that you want to do? Or I guess milestones is not the correct answer, but little cultural goals that you have. Watching new movies, or catching up on new shows, or having like a reading challenge for yourself, where you read more books, like a certain number of books. This could be fictional, or it could be something non-fictional, something more educating, I guess. Something to kind of keep you up to pace with the cultural lexicon, keep you well-versed and educated. Nice. Maybe you should make a list of the things that you want to watch or read or keep up on. Yeah, I think that would be extra healthy for you. Keep a diary, keep a journal. Log in your day-to-day activities so that way you can feel more in tune with time. Feel that everything starts to become a little more real again, and you don't necessarily sail away or start to lose grip of time, of your days, of your weeks, of your months, and you feel more in tune with yourself, with the world around you, more competent, more in control. I would highly recommend also checking in with your local community, getting more involved, whether it be through volunteer positions, whether it be through your local church, whether it be through staying at a local gym, making new friends in your neighborhood. Regardless of what kind of complications, what kind of issues, what kind of hang-ups you may have, having friends that are local are incredibly good for your mental health. It helps your sense of identity. It helps you feel more rooted. It helps you feel more protected. It helps you feel more stable. Predictable routines, weekly routines, tradition helps you feel like you know yourself. You know what's going to happen. You value yourself. And you start to trust people a little more. And you help your love for life and your love for your community grow. So, with that in mind, I hope you have a wonderful 2024 where you start to feel real and happy again. And I hope that you have clarity, peace of mind, stability, and a sense of peace in everything you do. And whatever dysfunction or chaos you feel on the inside, know that one day it will disappear and you'll wonder, or you'll be in amazement at how strong you were and how intelligent you were to unfurl that ball, and create the life that you've always wanted for yourself. Removing the handicap, essentially.